Galveston. So I am going to do the honors in introducing our speaker today, and a gentleman that I know many of us who have worked with Rotary in District 5890 have been familiar with past District Governor George Yeiter for a number of years. George is very celebrated CPA here in town, who for many years has been associated with Yeiter and Company. George and his wife Beverly are both CPAs. George has had the privilege of living abroad for a period of time and also serving our country in the National Guard during the 1970s, and was the governor of Rotary District 5890 and Rotary year 2003-2004 as a member of the Gulfway Hobby Club. George is now a member of the Katy Rotary, and I would encourage him while he is giving his remarks to us about the Rotary Foundation to give us about at least a 30-second pitch with regard to the Katy Rotary Wild West Brewfest, which is coming up. And with that, I am going to turn it over to my good friend, George Yeiter, past District Governor, 5890. George?
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Bill. Going to do is do a little slide presentation today. So we'll go right up to the beginning of it and start. Well, what we're going to talk about is the Memorial Spring Branch Rotary Club and their foundation, the Rotary Foundation. One of the things that I like that I found on your website, it says I didn't choose the Rotary life, the Rotary life chose me. It's a life of sharing, life of friendship, life of fellowship, life of making our community and our world a better place for all. Well, what we hope to answer today is, what does the Rotary Foundation do for my club? I want to stop there a second. In sales, you have to always answer the question, what's in it for me? If you want to have somebody purchase your service or product, there has to be something in it for them. So what's in it for you and for your club by supporting the Rotary Foundation? That's what we're going to be addressing today. And then let's say, why Rotary? Well, we fight disease, we educate, we build peace, clean water, we grow economies, we save lives, we're accountable for what we do. We have multiple partnerships throughout the world that expand our impact. We have a long track record of success, and we have a global reach, and we resolve conflicts in the world. That's why Rotary. We inspire together, we save lives, we promote peace. So to understand, it's a big topic. Let's look at the parts. There are three core causes in Rotary. I can't say that I've seen this broken down like this before, but it's the way my little accountant brain thinks. It has to add up, 1, 2, 3. So first, our cause is humanitarian service, polio in, polio now, and promoting peace. We do this with grants to study abroad, education and understanding amongst people, connecting the divides that separate us from each other. So let's look first at some of the humanitarian services. We work through 6, actually 7 today, areas of focus: peace building and conflict resolution, basic education and literacy, disease prevention and treatment, water, sanitation, hygiene, economic and community development, maternal and child health, and the newest one, number 7, is working in our environment. Um, all of these are areas that your club, all clubs, can work with the Rotary Foundation in completing. So you can receive funds from the Rotary Foundation in order to work in these projects. So the Rotary Foundation is quite unique. Let's ask ourselves, who decides what projects and where they're performed? Simple. You do. The Rotary clubs decide what projects and where they're performed. The Rotary Foundation simply says, here's 7 areas of focus. You pick your project. We've got nothing to do with it. Just stay within those 7 guideline areas. So what projects will they complete, and where will the location of that project be is up to the clubs. You can do a project overseas. You can do it in Guatemala. You can do it in Japan. You pick it. Or you can do it at home. And what project, again, it's what interest, what is the interest of your membership? What would they like to work on? You decide. If there's just one club involved, then that club decides. And we have usually smaller amounts of money. We'll have the club's money and a district Rotary Foundation grant for smaller projects. One club involved. We can have 2 or more clubs involved. It can be from the same country or it can be from different countries. And again, the clubs get together and they decide where the project's going to be, what the project's going to be. And the advantage of doing this on a multiple club basis, especially with different countries, is there's more money available. Why? Because you have more clubs putting their money in, plus the districts, plus the Rotary Foundation's money. So you'll have more. It's just a little different to work with some other club, or harder maybe, than it is to work with just one club. On the other hand, there's a lot of advantages. All right, look at some of the services. There's some that are dire needs in countries usually in the third world. We look at this and we can't imagine if our children were drinking this. But you know what? We can use foundation grants here in Texas. Oh, you can't think of a project? Well, how about water like those children were drinking? Maybe you say it's not that bad in Texas, but hey, we've got issues too, guys and gals. Texas has the most widespread water violations in the U.S. due in large part to the presence of radium. It's a radioactive substance that's linked to bone cancer, and it's in our water supply. For example, the small city of Brady, Texas has encountered radium levels that are 9 times higher than the EPA limit. Take a look at the headline. Dallas wastewater keeps the Trinity flowing in Houston drinking. We have a lot of water concerns too. It's not just in, say, Africa or third world country. We put in rural lights. A Rotary Club in Colorado did this. They put in solar lights in rural communities in the Navajo reservation. Now families in the evening can read, work, and study at night. Pretty cool. And that's right here in the U.S. It's a reverse grant. North Texas District 5790 recently received a global grant of $160,000 that they're spending in their community. We can do the same. We recently received $25,000 through the district and working with the Cinco Club for the Brookwood community. So we do this already. We're bringing the money home. And we can do wherever the need is what we should be concentrating on. So Rotarians changing lives, humanitarian services, working through these 7 areas of focus. So how can you participate? How can your club participate? Well, you got to find a need. It can be at home or abroad. You got to define a service project to meet that need. Then you apply for a grant. The grants have changed, and you have plenty of resources in your clubs that can help you understand how the grants have changed and how you can access those grants today. Then you have to implement it. So how also can you help with In Polio Now? Well, the member participation through the immunization days where we go abroad and we participate and give the drops out, those days are gone, but we can still contribute. So how about the next one? It's where we're promoting peace. Now, often we don't think about this. We just say, oh, we're talking about a grant for a student to study abroad. It's more than that. It's education and it's understanding between people who are connected, who are divided by cultural issues, by habits, by political issues. I mean, it's promoting peace. We have the Rotary Foundation Global Student Grant that's available, where local students study abroad and then they return home. So we say, oh, some people say, well, I don't want to send all my money abroad. You're not. The Global Student Grant, for example, promoting peace, is where we're sending a local student from your community abroad to study and then return home. The Vocational Training Team grant, where we take local young professionals and we send them abroad as trainers to train others in their profession. It'll be usually for 1 to 6 weeks. Then we have the Rotary Peace Scholar. And this is where, again, we take a local professional. It's very competitive, I want to remind you. Only 70, 75 of these available a year around the world. But you nominate, your club nominates a local professional to study conflict resolution. These are just 3 of the ways that you can promote peace and help your club and help people in your community, local students who would love to study abroad and come home. Local young professionals who would love to train others for a 1 to 6 week period with a team from the Houston area and go abroad, and then the Peace Scholars. So I want to remind you of this. The returning students and trainings, their lives have changed because they've lived abroad. There's immersion into a new and different culture. It's life-changing. Often they're learning to speak in new languages. I got to tell you this, just to talk about culture and language. One of my daughter-in-laws is a German. Chris, you're familiar with us. She's a German, so she speaks very good English, but she doesn't always get the subtleties and the sarcasms. So my granddaughter got her Aggie ring this last week. So she's got this picture of her getting her Aggie ring where she sticks her finger up and you're seeing her ring and she has a nice little diamond in it. And so Alonka wrote in the message we were texting back and forth, she says, "When's the wedding?" She thought she was engaged and showing her engagement ring, and she didn't get it because it's a cultural thing. But when you go over there, you don't just learn speaking a new language. You learn about the culture. You learn about the sarcasms. You learn about the innuendos of the language that you'll never learn in a classroom. Developing new international friends and networks. So much is different in another culture. Food, drink, table manners, social customs, local political correctness, hygiene and sanitation, political and religious viewpoints, laws, rights or lack of rights, work standards, work ethics. It's all different. And your young person that you send abroad has exposure to learn this. So what was accomplished? Your student and trainer receives an education, yes, but it's academic. And they could do this academically or they could do it through work experience. And we do that with them. A unique life experience living in another culture, and they'll be better equipped to contribute to the community in Memorial, Spring Branch, in Houston, and Katy. They'll be a more well-rounded citizen. They'll appreciate their life and their community and their country. They'll become involved in service. Join your Rotary Club, but you have to promote it. You got to go after them. You got to stay on them. Right, Bill? They just don't naturally come home and says, I want to belong to the Rotary Club. You got to go after them. And they'll become more tolerant to others who are different from them. Peace. Experience. The experience then helps them promote world, understanding, goodwill, and peace. So that's it. Our foundation's 3 causes. Volunteering, I got this off your website and I loved it. Volunteering is the ultimate exercise in democracy. You vote in elections once a year, but when you volunteer, you vote every day. About the kind of community you want to live in. Okay, Rotarians change lives and it requires service and money. There are 2 things you can do to change lives. You can serve with your labor, time, skills, and networks, join a committee in the club or the district, work on a service project using these grants, help find and select a student for international scholarships, or vocational team members to participate in training abroad. You can serve with financial commitments. Obviously, you can donate. The annual fund, super important to us, and that's what you were talking about today, Bill. You're hoping to raise $25,000 through the sale of these tickets, the district tickets, in order to fund our annual fund. Most important, the number 1 thing we have to do right now. And the polio fund, we've got to complete this. We've had a little setback with the coronavirus, but hey, we got to keep on it and we can end it. And then last, I hope we can get to talk about it today, it depends on the time, is the endowment fund. This is something that is not an everyday or every year event. All right, so our foundation helps clubs fund Rotary service projects by providing a professional fundraising program for you. Think of it. This is a professional designed fundraising program. And what is it? Well, here it is. What are they doing here? Bill Haglund, you're in the picture. Bill?
Presenting Paul Harris Fellow Awards to
Yes, sir.
contributions to Rotary.
Thank you. That's exactly what's happening. So the fundraiser recognizes people for their labor service and their financial service, both. The annual fund is made up of small donations, usually $100 to $1,000, and it's for personal service and financial service, between $1,000 to $10,000. And then we have major donors, that's $10,000 to $250,000. And then we have the Arch Clump Society at $250,000 or more. Programs at death are also available. So, you know, sometimes you just don't have the funds to make a significant enough contribution for you that you're satisfied with in life. But maybe you can do it at death. There's nothing wrong with that. Your club can also continue being a 100% Paul Harris Club like you are now. So donations to the annual fund come back to the clubs to spend. Your foundation is a bottoms-up organization. The Rotary members decide virtually everything. The district leadership, the Rotary Foundation staff, and the trustees fundamentally are administrators. The doers are the Rotary Club members and the Rotary Club leadership. You're different. Think how unique this is. If you give it your donation to another club, do they come back and say, all right, what do you guys want to do with the money? Not as a general rule, they don't. So what does the Rotary Foundation do for your club? It provides the service program framework, humanitarian service projects at home and abroad, ending polio, creating peace in our world through these educational programs, bringing clubs together to perform joint projects and develop through educational grants and joint projects, developing friendships around the world. You're talking about going to Japan? Wow. All of us who've traveled, all of us who've been around the world can tell you that you have a home wherever you go in Rotary. And this is why. Friendships are developed on an international basis. Provides a fundraising program for the clubs to fund club service programs. And the Rotary Foundation, remember, does not perform service projects. It's the clubs that do it. Only the clubs can provide service to humanity. So you guys are great. You are active. You are involved. But it's up to the club to choose whether they participate or not. And when I go to a club and they say, well, what does the Rotary Foundation do for me? That tells me immediately they've never done anything with the Rotary Foundation, or they know. So let's move on to the endowment fund. Do we have time, Bill, or not? Yes? Okay, I'll rush through it. All right, you don't have to be a billionaire to have an endowment. An alternative to these expensive endowments now is something called a personalized named fund. The endowment fund can have endless personalized named accounts. It's like a bank account. Here's the Rotary Endowment, or if you would, ABC Bank. And ABC Bank has many different bank accounts and styles of bank accounts. The big Bill Hagelin Endowment Fund, he can set this up while he's alive. The Bill Hall Memorial Endowment, his family or he can set it up when he passes. And the Lawrence, how do you say his last name? Barris?
Barris.
Yeah, Barris Family Endowment Fund. You can set all these things up, and it's cheap. It's nothing, actually. It's the cost of the donation. And each named fund generates distributions for your Rotary Club's humanitarian service projects, as educational scholarships, and vocational training grants. It's generating income distributions for us forever. It just keeps on giving. So nearly anyone can establish a named endowment, whether you're young or old, rich or poor. You can fund it during life or at the end of life. During life, special events. Maybe you sell a capital assets. You're after special tax savings. And you can come see any of us in the district that's in the foundation about this. And then maybe it's a special reason. Maybe you want to memorialize the life of a loved one. Think of it. It allows their loved one's life of sharing and service above self to continue in death as it did in life. Wow. Supporting their favorite Rotary service program if they wish to specify. And at the end of life, if you just don't have the money during life to do this, you can do it with an insurance policy. You can do it with a bequest from your estate or gifts from your pension or IRA accounts. You can do it. Everybody can do this. I'm going to skip this one. So, death will stop your personal service. But with an named endowment fund, death does not have to stop your life's good works. Continue to live a second life of financial service. Set up your own personalized named endowment. Every $25,000 contributed can generate somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 in your second lifetime of doing good. Plus, there's the third life and the fourth. It's indefinite. It just keeps on going. So what's the impact of your gift? You get to improve the human condition. Humanitarian club service projects are funded. International education and bridging divides are funded. Personal happiness for you and fulfillment of your life. You create a legacy that just keeps on giving, and you achieve a goal, become a major donor or an Arch Clump Society member, and you set an example for your posterity and for your fellow Rotarians of sharing and service. Your legacy is Rotary's promise. At the end of life, will your life have been just footprints in the sand that wash away with the next tide? Or will you leave a lasting legacy, passing on your values through the Rotary Foundation in a second lifetime of financial service, funding humanitarian services, and promoting peace, improving the human condition? Your life is your message to the world. Make sure it's inspiring. Leave the future behind, as this grandfather is leaving a tree behind with your endowment. Enable Rotary service now and forever. And I'm going to say one thing. In this district, we only have about 6 or 7 people who have endowments where the money comes back to the district. Beverly and I are one of them. And it's very satisfying to get this report every year that tells us how much money our funds generated and were dispersed back to this district. So if you would like more information on the foundation, call or contact Lisa Pauls. If you would like to talk about the endowment and building a endowment for you personally or you and your family, I'm the contact person. That's it, Bill.
Outstanding presentation, George, and I know that you speak from the heart when you talk about the foundation, because you and Beverly are not only generous donors, but you are donors as members of the Arch Clump Society, and at the trustee level, it's my understanding that that means that your contributions have to be in the neighborhood of a minimum of $250,000 to $499,999. So you are definitely walking the walk with Rotary, and you speak from the heart when you talk to us about this. Does anybody have any questions for George with regard to any of the matters that we've talked about today? Gwen?
George, here in our club, as a function, actually an outgrowth of the Peace Committee, the District Peace Committee, we are
Gwen, you froze.
yeah,
Do we have, well,
Somebody muted you, Gwen.
I was about to say, you're back.
It wasn't
oh, I'm
me.
back.
you're back now. Okay.
So, so we, and there is some confusion on our committee about what we would need to do to apply for a grant for such a thing. Would you be the person, or Lisa Paul? Which of y'all would be best to talk to about this?
Lisa Paul will best direct you.
Okay.
But as you know, and as you're inferring, the methodology for grant has definitely changed. And it's going to now be going more through the district than the clubs themselves applying. So you've got to be working with the district committee on this.
Well, yes, and we are. But did I also understand you to say that we don't have to have another partner in another country?
Sure. We all know you're just not carrying what you already know through. The district, from its district money, we divide it into two in the share. So the district gets half and the World Fund gets half. So from the district's portion, this district, they can all do it different, but this district chooses to allocate a certain amount to club service projects here in our district. So that you can do totally on your own. Now, if it's becoming more and more popular for us to do reverse grants. For example, your club may have been doing a grant with, say, an Indian club or a Mexican club or whatever for years and years. So now you might say, we want to go back to them. We have a real serious need in our community. We would like to address it, and we need you guys to help support us this time. So you get a reverse grant coming back to your community if you have such needs.
So we already have one service project that we get matching funds from the district for. So we don't want to disturb that, right? So you're suggesting that reverse grant would be the way to go?
I am.
Okay.
And it's just a matter of making it happen. I mean, so many of our clubs have such good relationships with foreign clubs because we've been meeting needs in their communities. Now, as a general rule, we know that the more serious needs of humanity are found in these third world countries. But the truth is, we too have needs like the Navajo reservation, lack of lighting and electricity that Rotary provided, and the water that I mentioned to you a while ago. We have a lot of serious water needs right here in River City in Texas.
And Brookwood, for instance.
Brookwood, another one, perfect. We did that. That actually happened.
Well, what we're hoping that what will come of this is we believe, but we have to do focus groups to find out that there are some budding entrepreneurs in this Memorial Spring Branch area that all they need is some training and a little mentorship and maybe a little bit of money to get them up and rolling and on their feet and change the level of poverty in these communities here.
Right.
Well, George, we thank you so much for being with us today. We have heard several clubs that you've appeared before with your presentation, and it was just as splendid as it was reported. And we thank you so much for being with us. Please give Beverly our regards. I trust she's doing well.
Yeah, she is.
Great.